I was working with an individual who was trying to first they wanted to work on relationships with me, right? And then we're in the first session. I'm like, girl, it's like you love business. I was like, and then we started cutting it like through the crap in her brain. And she burst into tears. She's like, I just want to work on business. She's like, it's the most important thing to me. And I was like, we are going to, and I'm looking forward to it.
Hello and welcome to Center for Victory's podcast of Your Best Day Yet. At Center for Victory, we're here to help unlock, reinforce, and enrich relationships through personal and professional development. I'm Eric Guy, Chief Victory Officer here at the Center for Victory. With me today, another very special guest, Carly Pepin. Just to introduce her a little bit to the viewership and all those who are listening. Carly's an international speaker and consultant with specialized focus on human behavior. So we're going to have a great talk here today. With a global reach, she delivers the message that regardless of one's background, occupation, or origin, every individual encounters personal and professional challenges stemming from their own perceived flaws. Carly emphasizes that the key to living a fulfilling life lies in how you utilize and transform these stories. Having devoted her life to mastering the intricacies of human behavior, she empowers others to do the same. Through her expertise, she guides individuals in looking beyond the surface and delving into core essence of their being by uncovering and addressing the deeper issues that hinder personal growth. She's able to help her clients design their lives with purpose rather than succumbing to a life dictated by duty. Ooh, that sounds good. Sounds like we're connected here, Carly. Well, welcome to Your Best Day Yet.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Eric.
Yeah. So, yeah, very interesting topic. I love talking about human behavior and unlocking that. I'm sure you've got a lot of great stories. Hopefully, you could share one or two with us. But let's start somewhat simple. Is what can people expect to change in their lives just by shifting the perspectives on the stories they've created?
Yeah, that's a great question. A great question. And it's interesting because we talk about it all the time, but it's hard for people to understand the real results that actually occur when we shift our perceptions. So here's how it works. This is really fun. Whenever we're perceiving something as having a more positive than negative impact, we become what we call infatuated with it. We're not actually seeing both sides. Everything has both sides. As a result, every time you see that thing, experience that thing, it could be a person, it could be a quality of a person, it could be a thing. Every time, it's almost like you're hooked to it. You're so attracted to it. There's no repulsion. There's no seeing that there's challenge that goes with it, that you seek it out in your life. Then there's the opposite aspect of this where you see more negative than positive in something and you resent those things. You dislike them, you hate them. And as a result, every time you see it, there's the aversion and you're like, I want to run. Your subconscious is running on these perceptions on a regular basis. You literally can walk down your street and just look around and you'll either seek it or avoid it, seek it or avoid it, and you don't even notice it's happening. It's wild. So when
Mm-hmm.
we shift the perception, and what we're wanting to do is we're not wanting to create an over positive perception because that's going to make you addicted to something, that's going to make you hooked to it. It's almost like getting the the drug dopamine rush. It's the
Yeah.
same thing, right? And you're addicted to that thing. We don't want anything to be overly negative. We just want it to be equal negative to positive, and that creates balance. -1 + 1 = 0. That's all we're trying to get. We're just trying to get to neutrality. And in that state, you can walk down the street, and all of a sudden, since you're not seeking anything or avoiding everything, you see the world as it is. You see everything there, everything that's available to you. And it's really quite amazing because when we apply this to a practical solution, right? Like I was working with an individual and they were avoiding a particular part of business. They were avoiding it because they had gone through challenges with business in the past, and they were also judging themselves for how they were creating investments to invest in their future, right? When we cleared that misperception and we took away, lots of the negatives, started to see some of the other side, what wound up happening is they they had an opportunity for someone to invest in their business, like literally right in front of their face. Like it was a couple days later that they just said, I don't know how I didn't see this before. before. Like it literally is right in front of my face. And I was like, that's it. That's the power of our perceptions. You're literally avoiding that and you think it's a nightmare and you're scared to embrace it, when reality you just have a misperception and you didn't see both sides of a situation from the past. So it's really quite cool. Like you can, when we say you transform your life by shifting your perception, like the world is huge. There's so many things on the planet. There's so many things available and so many opportunities. We're just shifting our perceptions to broaden our perspective and open our eyes to what's already there.
Yeah. So I'm curious. I know this is a little, it's not totally off topic here, but I'm always interested in how, you know, you got, other people, myself. How did you get so, what was your story leading up to, hey, look, I want to help people with this. I see this thing, what was that for you? And typically other people usually have breakthroughs too that, now that I teach it, here's my story. Was that, did you have anything like that or?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I left Los Angeles when I was in my late 20s. I was really depressed. I blamed it on like the city and the circumstances and the people. And then when I moved, I decided to move to Australia. Does
Wow.
that seem like yeah, it seemed like the smartest idea at the time. It worked out really well. Super grateful, great country. But at the same time, it was pretty far. So I lived there for a year, but within the first just like couple weeks of being there, I was all by myself and I realized that everything was coming from the inside, not the outside. I was feeling 10 times worse than when I was living in Los Angeles, but then all of a sudden, all the things that I had blamed it on were gone. So it's one of the best things that I ever did for myself, is to take that environment and those individuals away from me and be so far, because it made me realize like it's not them, it's me. Right. And that's when I found my first coach that was based on kind of human behavior principles, understanding your life purpose. And my life started to change within just the first month of working with her. It was amazing. And that was it. It was just like I was hooked. It was just spiraled from there, just reading books, studying, mentorship, like courses, programs. It's just been that way ever since. So it naturally made sense at a certain point to start doing it with other people as well. Because if you guys love this stuff, I know that people know this, you make your friends and family crazy because they don't want you to be their teacher. So yeah, just go find clients that actually want you to help them and want you to be their teacher, because that's what a business is. It's finding the people who want to do this work with you and makes it really fulfilling. Yeah, that's fun.
Yeah, it does. And thanks for sharing that. I appreciate it. And I know this for me too, but I'm going to ask you as well, because I know it's so different when, when we're in it, when we're doing it, when we've had that shift ourselves, you know, how's your perspective on like life purpose different from most people?
Yeah, so everyone like goes out there and they're trying to figure out what their life purpose is, right? You're trying to find it. And they'll say, go find your life purpose. And you don't have to find it. It's your genuine purpose. It's never left you. It's been with you forever. And so we put it out there like it's some nebulous magical thing that we have to do all this like jump through hoops of fire to like get, and you don't. Your life is demonstrating what's genuinely the most important to you. Your life demonstrates every day on how you spend your time the most, how you invest your time the most, what gives you the most energy, what you're spending the most money on. That's going to tell me what is actually most important to you. Right. That's going to tell me. It's funny because, we talk about like perfect day later, and it's like your perfect day is going to be made up of your life purpose. That's your perfect day. And when we judge it and we think it should look a different way, that's when we think we've lost it. We've compared ourselves to someone else who we're like, we like their purpose and we think that it should be like that, or that's how a purpose should look. And it's not. It's individual to each one of us. But the second that you compare yourself to someone else, you start to doubt who you are. And then all of a sudden you think you've lost it, but it's still right in front of your face. Your perception, again, here's the power of perceptions. Your perception is just off. So you're not seeing that your life is showing you what's most important to you. Yeah, it's right there every day, all day. Can't get rid of it, can't lose it.
Why is it important to focus
Mhm.
on not just your mindset, but also that purpose?
Yeah, the reason why it's so valuable, again, this is where it's not nebulous. Like, this is a concrete thing in our life, right? And it's very important. And again, it's not hard. When we understand what it is, we can manage and plan our day around what's important to us, period. And so, the reason, again, why this is so important is think about it this way. Let's say, think about something that you've been really successful on, right? And I know you guys are all thinking about something right now that you've been very successful on. It had some sort of meaning. It had a deeper why. So even though there were challenges along the way, some were small and some were really large, you did it anyways, right? Why? Because it had that level of purpose and why. Now think about something you're failing miserably at, right? You're just failing miserably. Did it have the same purpose and why as the thing that you went through an incredible amount of pleasure and pain for? It did not. It did not. So people get frustrated because they procrastinate. They're not successful, right? They're not achieving what they think they are meant to achieve. You're most likely focused on some of the wrong things, right? You're most likely focused on some of the wrong things. This goes on a grand scale to a smaller scale. So on a grand scale, for example, like I was working with an individual who was trying to, first they wanted to work on relationships with me, right? And then we're in the first session. I'm like, girl, it's like, you love business. I was like, and then we started cutting it like through the crap in her brain. And she burst into tears. She's like, I just want to work on business. She's like, it's the most important thing to me. And I was like, we are going to, and I'm looking forward to it. So her failing in her relationship isn't because she's bad at relationships. She's great. She's got a business. You can't have business without being good at relationships. She's great with relationships. She's just not interested in romantic right now. And on a smaller scale, I was just working with another individual who's scaling up their company. And it was really interesting because they were procrastinating day to day on these specific tasks. And when we broke it down, I was like, why are you not delegating this? Like, you're at a level that this is not something you're meant to do. And she just goes, oh, I feel so much relief. And I'm like, yeah. So that's like not having the greater why in, that little kind of micro movement, right? And the reason why we want to pay attention to the macro and micro movements, because sometimes it is you're so focused on an area of life that's not even genuinely connected with you, you're not going to move forward in it. We see it a lot with health and finances in the sense that, people say they want to lose weight, but they don't lose weight. There's nothing wrong with you. You just don't have as great of a why as the fitness junkie, and the fitness junkie has a great purpose and a deep why behind that. That's it. Nothing wrong with you. Same with finances. You're not saving and investing to the degree that someone else is who's incredibly wealthy. I'm going to guarantee you have wealth in your life in a different form. There's nothing wrong with you. You just have more value investing in the other things that you have as opposed to that financial component. So that's why we want to get clear on what the purpose is. Because even once we get clear, health and finances are two very important things,
Mhm.
then we can actually create a deeper why, utilizing our purpose to get those going. Because I know those are important, by the way. Some things like delegating emails and stuff, if you're building your business or not, but health and finances are genuinely important.
Yeah, and I found it, Carly, I found it extremely helpful. And again, for me personally, years and years and years ago, and then for the clients that I serve, when our goals align with those things, it's easier to go and attack your goals and have accomplishment, which is going to lead to my next question. But we'll do this one first. The alignment of those goals with those things, because we can accomplish them a lot quicker when there's a deeper why and we're chasing after them, to your point, for a reason.
Yeah, absolutely. And the reason why we can accomplish them quicker is because we're willing to go through the pain, right? If a goal has only pleasure on the end of it, then I know that it's a fantasy and it's not something that's truly aligned with you. You'll see goals that you have in your life that are only positive. There's only a positive outcome. And you'll notice that those don't turn out very well because everything has both sides. Building a business has both sides. I've been in this I think it's 12 years this year. It's 12 years now, and we're just expanding it and kind of rebranding to another stage, right? And on the back end, if I tell every one what I went through, some people are going to be like, I don't want to have business. Genuinely, I do not want to have business, right? But I'm willing to go through not just the pleasure that I get as a result, but the significant quantity of pain as well, right? There's different stressors. And so when you see something as inspiring, you just don't stop. You don't give up on it. It doesn't matter what's coming at you. It doesn't matter who's coming at you. You just figure it out. And that's when I know that things are very purposeful to people. Elon Musk is a great example. There's a really cool video. I think it's if you just Google like I never give up Elon Musk, right? He talks about it, and he's talking about how the people that he admired are basically putting him down for what he's creating, right? Space travel for the public, the general public,
Mm,
and how they're putting him down and they're like going against him. And what does he say? He cries and he says, "But I'll never give up. I'll never give up." That's just someone connected to their purpose. And the cool thing is we all have that inside of us, right? Every single person on this planet has that inside of us. So the difference between maybe you and someone who you see moving faster, more effectively, doing more is maybe you just haven't connected to that thing or things. By the way, it's usually more than one that actually
mm,
inspire you. Yeah. Because even Elon Musk, I mean, we know he loves like the tech space as well, but he says his company is philanthropy, right? I mean,
mm-hmm.
we're talking about like philanthropy through capitalism in a sense, right? So, but he says he wants to make a difference with his company, and he's using that money just not only to fund his life, but also to create a difference in the world. So we're watching someone who has multiple things that are important to us, and they're great examples to use because they give us some evidence of it
Yeah,
that
that's
everyone
good.
can relate to. Yeah.
That's good. That's a
Yeah.
great example too. So thanks for bringing that up. Appreciate it. Which leads, like I said, to my next question here, because it's just like I know I do this. I used to do it 10 times more, years and years ago. Uh, but I think a lot of people fall captive to it now is comparison, right?
Yeah.
Why do you think people compare? Why do we compare ourselves so much to others?
Yeah, comparison is simply a disowned part, right? So, and this is, and I'll use like supermodels as an example, because even models have body dysmorphia. Like I've worked with models in the sense where they
Yeah.
look at themselves in the mirror and they don't think that they're beautiful, right? But every person on this planet, you spot it, you got it, right? So if you're looking at a model, even if you're overweight, right, and you're admiring their beauty and how, individuals perceive that they have a beautiful face, I could go through your life, no matter what weight you're at, and show you how many individuals have actually displayed and shared that with you until you have certainty that you're no different than that person. You may have a different shape face, a different look, but you still have the same beauty because the world around you is demonstrating to you that you have it, but you've disowned that inside yourself, right? So anytime that you compare yourself to someone on the outside, just know that it's a disowned part within you. Some of them are a little bit easier, some of them are a little bit trickier, right? I was just working with an individual on this specific dynamic because they perceive they didn't have the level of education. They're comparing themselves to speakers and coaches and consultants who had an educational background, whereas they sort of are more of like, that entrepreneurial story that you hear. It's like, they didn't do well in college, figured it out, and building a business in that way. And so as we started to look through and see where they had their education, this super studier, by the way, like it's insane how much this person studies. And you start to look at the mass quantity of information that not only they're gathering, but they're documenting and refurnishing for other people. It's like, holy crap, like how many degrees do you have? It's insane. So when you see it in your form, then after that, they felt really comfortable being on the stage with these other people and they stopped comparing themselves. They just felt natural. The other thing about comparisons that we don't like to hear because we're too proud. We're too proud to admit that what we see in others we have in ourselves when it's something that we're comparing in the form of something we judge and resent, right? So anything that you see on the outside, even the things that you dislike, we love to hear we have the things we like, but we hate hearing the things that we dislike. We have that as well. The greater the resistance to owning it, and I just like I put my hand on my heart because it's like I have empathy because in the sense that the greater the resistance that you have to actually seeing that in yourself, the more that I know that there's some sort of level of guilt and shame that you have for something that you've done. But the truth is that no matter what you've done or not done, you're worthy of love. That is the truth. And so, I mean, even my husband and I, when we do our workshops together, we're helping people to clear the guilt and shame. So you don't spend your whole life beating yourself up. It's not worth it. It's really not worth it. Yeah.
Okay. Next question. Before we get to that next question, though, before I forget, how do people find you?
On my website. So carlypepin.com, CARLYPEPIN.com is the best. It's got contact me directly, all the social media channels, all that fun stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just want to make sure people have, yeah, the ability to know how to get in contact with you.
Thank
All
you.
right. So next question. Um, why is it, and I love this question, all right, because I love talking to people about it. Why is it important to think about the legacy we would love to leave behind now?
Yeah. So legacy is something that once you pass away, it's going to it's like your life keeps living. Whatever you're putting into the world keeps going. A legacy is not a simple thing. If you think that you can just like plan it 2 years before you die, ain't gonna happen. For something to withstand the test of time, it takes time, energy, and investment. Right? We don't see buildings that stand the test of time as a result of someone building it and then passing away and just being like, good luck. There's a game plan on the back end. And if you want something to be left behind, you start putting that game plan into place now. We see this with, large companies and corporations. Warren Buffett, it was like 20 years or something. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but it's at least a decade where he's been training his replacement because he doesn't want Berkshire Hathaway to go when he passes away.
Yeah.
And so that's part of legacy building. Had he done it just the year before, it wouldn't have been enough time to ensure to train that person. That's something on a bigger scale when we look at companies, right? Corporations. What's really cool too, you can look up, I love this. There's like a list of the oldest companies in the world. And then there's one company, they build temples that actually got taken over by a parent company. I think it was 10, 20, 30 years ago or something. So it's still in action, but it almost closed. It almost closed, but a bigger corporation was like, we gotcha. But it's been in business for like 1,000 years. Like that's insane. And so that takes significant planning to make sure a business is running. The other aspect, we look at this in our life, like what would you love to leave behind if you don't have a business, if you're not an entrepreneur, if you're not putting together nonprofits, anything like that, what do you want to leave behind? Do you want to leave some writing behind? Again, you don't want to start this like the year before you think you're going to die. You don't have time. It takes a lot longer. Any project that we ever do, we all of a sudden sit down and we're like, this is going to take longer than I thought, right? As soon as you break it down into steps. Or if you're financially planning for your family, you want to leave a legacy behind for your kids financially. You don't start that a couple years before you pass away. That goes into place now. Structures, like it just, I'm not even gonna get into it. The detail that goes into financially planning to be able to leave things to your family in the best way, and not just for the kids, but tax wise, and like all the details that go into it are insane. It's like, oh my gosh. And then making sure that you're creating that income that you would be inspired to leave behind for your family as well. Like, what is it that you want? Because that's going to take some time. So when I say do it today, I mean do it today. Because anything that I think that I would love to leave behind, being on this podcast is an action step that I
Yeah.
can take right now in this second today to make sure that that happens. If I get off, I can apply for more podcasts. That's an action step I can take today. And when you break it down into like tiny bite-sized chunks, you'll realize I could start doing this today. And by the way, guys, you'll just feel so inspired. Like you don't feel overwhelmed. You're like, because this is what you want. This is like your why. So you're like, this is inspiring. I feel energized. I feel fulfilled. Yeah.
Yeah. I will say that when I connected that to what I'm doing now with these podcasts,
Yeah.
I didn't fight it anymore.
Yeah, it's
It
night and
was
day.
like, okay, well, my wife says, well, this is something your
Um,
kids, your grandkids, your great grandkids will be able to,
yeah.
to watch and possibly get some knowledge and wisdom from. Like, oh, okay, that like I can get behind that. Like that's more to my why than just like, oh, I don't want to do it because of networking or work where you got it. You just
Yeah.
go through that. So that was like, I'm glad you mentioned that because that was
It's
big
cool.
eye opening for me as well a couple years ago because I used to kick and scream and
This is a great example because it's the bigger why component,
yeah,
right? It wasn't actually important to you to do the podcast, but it was important to you to have the legacy for your family
right.
and to be able to share all the information that you're learning with them to a greater degree and impact generations to come. That's what's important. And the podcast is the vessel. But until you saw that, you're like, back off podcast. And now that you see that, you're like, yeah, it's hard, but I love it. I'm gonna do it anyways.
Hmm.
That's it. That's the greatest example right
Yeah,
now of like, this is how it works in action. Like
yeah,
connect with that purpose and that
sure
why.
does. Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Next to last question here. So when it comes to big goals, I like this
Mm.
question. How do I go from can I do this to I can do this?
Yeah. So part of it, so this is what we want to check in on. And we actually, it's beautiful because it's a beautiful summary of what we've spoken about today already. Is first we want to check in and see who you're comparing yourself to, right? Because if you're putting someone else on a pedestal who you think can do it, but remember, if you think they have something that you don't, you'll put yourself down consciously and unconsciously and say, I can't do it, right? Because they can do it. They have that and I don't. And so we want to check in on the comparisons so we can see what we think we're missing and own those disowned parts inside ourselves. That gives us permission to play at their level. And then once we do that, I like to check in and be like, okay, do you still want to do this? Because sometimes we put someone so high on a pedestal that we think we need to do this. And we're saying I can't because it's truly not aligned with us, right? That's why we do the comparisons first and then the check-in second to be like, okay, do you actually want to do this? Because sometimes people say no. And then other times they say yes. And now I think I can do this, right? This genuinely is aligned with what's most important to me. So we check in and we see, like, is this actually aligned with your purpose, right? And then the other component too, which I kind of talked about with that one client, is you might look at something and just be like, I cannot do this. Like when it comes to websites, I can't do it. I can't do it. I'm not going to. And that's okay. That's when we delegate out to other individuals to ensure that we're not sitting there just beating ourselves up, getting frustrated. And sometimes people will like, well, in the beginning of entrepreneurship, I can't afford to do it. Fine. You don't need a website. I don't even know if any, like sometimes people go on my website, but like for the most part, I get repeats, referrals. I'm meeting people in person. I'm talking to people through the podcast, but my biggest driver isn't a website. Some people who are in e-commerce and in more of the online coaching sort of platform, they work off that stuff, but that doesn't mean you need it. Know who you are, know your audience. And if I know that I make more money clients creation, like traveling and exploring and, connecting with people, like that's the way that I'm going to do it. So I'll sit there and it's like, do I go out to dinner tonight or do I stay home and work on a website? I actually go out to dinner, which funny enough, I got a great contact like that last week. And I was like, oh, I love this. So it's just family member had come up and visited someone else. And I was like, I had no idea you were in that industry. And I was like, that's amazing. And it's crazy because it's the most ideal client I can have in a corporate structure. And I did that instead of just sitting home and doing my website. So sometimes we just can't do it because it's not for us. And I'd rather pay someone to do that so I can invest my time in where my energy is used most wisely, where I can create the most impact. So pay attention for sure.
Yes.
Yeah,
Good,
for
good,
sure.
good, good, good. Thank you for
Yeah.
that. All right, last question. All right. As always, we always end our podcast because it's called Your
Mhm.
Best Day Yet. We always ask our guests, how would you describe your best day yet?
Yeah, I don't think I've had a best day because I really love my life. I'm really grateful. But what it includes is family, right? I just love family. They're very purposeful to me. So it's just generally has some form of family in it. Definitely some sort of personal development for myself, but also teaching and assisting others. And I love learning. I love learning. So my days, no matter what I'm doing, will include that. And it's funny because I just took like a week off with my husband. We went to Mexico and our days still turned into that. So even though we weren't like teaching when we were there and we actually took time off, we started practicing things with each other. So every day we were like doing things and testing new like human behavior stuff. And we're like, this worked and this didn't work. That was so cool. Like while reading and studying and just hanging out with each other and planning for business and in the future. So it was really cool. So yeah, your perfect day is going to be, I think is a great question because it's like when we ask ourselves what our perfect day is, um, whatever is on that list, you guys are the things that are most inspiring to you. It's part of your purpose. It's genuinely part of your purpose. So it's a great question that you're asking everyone, but a great question for everyone to ask themselves so they can look and be like, that is purposeful to me. And then just re-listen to this podcast so you can apply whatever's purposeful to everything we just said. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Yeah,
Um,
thank you for your enthusiasm, for your inspiration, for your insight. I could literally we could stop recording and I could talk to you, ad nauseum over and over and over again. Hopefully, when I'm out there again on the West Coast, I can drop by and visit you and your husband, I think we'd have a lot to share and talk about, and we'd go out to dinner instead of working on our websites for sure.
For
Uh,
sure, for
yeah,
sure.
for sure, for sure. So thank you very much. I appreciate it. Again, folks, you can her website, Carly's website, CarlyPepin.com. Check her out. Hopefully we can have you back again. Like I said, I think
Yeah.
you're, yeah, just a great conversation. I'm sure there's plenty we can talk about when it comes to human behavior. Just geek out on the newest books we've read on human potential. So thank you very much, folks. That's all for today. Thanks for watching and listening. Make sure you hit that subscribe button as well as the bell icon till you get notified when we post another podcast. If you want more information, visit us at our website, centerforvictory.com. And remember, wherever you're at, whatever you're doing, make this your best day yet. We'll see you soon.